It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire, and our mission to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. On this episode, we have the one and only Dr. Maxine. She's in the building. She'll be talking about her book, W.I.F.E. I just can't wait to talk about that, boss, and so forth. But let me first say hello. How you doing, Dr. Maxine? How you doing?
Hello, I am very well. I am good. It is so good to see you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, by the way. And this is not your first rodeo. I think this might be your third or fourth time on the show. It's always an honor to have you back. We were in the green room or online room, whatever room they call it these days, kind of catching up. And I admire all that you're doing and the change you're making in the world. For those folks that don't know you, we'll get into your background in a few minutes and talk about how famous you are and all the wonderful stuff you're doing and all the letters behind your name. But before we get to that, there's some folks who are just tuning in right now. And they're probably wondering, Shay, ask her, what does it really mean to lead powerfully, really without losing yourself? I'm just curious. That's maybe holding their attention right now. So what does that really mean?
What it truly means, in a nutshell, is setting boundaries for yourself and taking care of yourself. We know the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. I also believe you cannot pour from a dirty one. And what that means is sometimes we overextend ourselves and then we become resentful. And who do we take that out on? We take it out on those that are closest to us, our spouses, family, friends, children. But this time around, it's like, couldn't you just lead powerfully and have those boundaries around those you lead, those that you oversee, whether it's a project, whether it's people, whether it's a place, and have those boundaries and set those boundaries without apology. And with that, it does create some, I won't say balance because nothing is really balanced, but I'll use the term harmonized,
Mm-hmm.
that you can still lead powerfully and be a strong leader in whatever you oversee, and still have that wellness and that harmony at home.
You mentioned a good point. You talked about life balance. And a number of folks that are watching right now, women and men, I'll throw us in there as well, they're pulled in a lot of different directions. And how
Mhm.
can someone tell when they're giving too much and not taking care of themselves? Now, I know that's a loaded question, okay? Because some of you are different places, different spaces, different ages, and so forth. But if you had to step back and say, here's some signs that someone knows when they're really giving too much and not taking care of themselves, are there any signs that we would see along the way?
That's a great question, Shay, and it is loaded, but I get it. The best way to answer is even to speak from my own experience. So, as I'm a pastor, I'm a senior pastor of a church in Delaware. I also work full time. I'm a senior manager for a hospital in human resources. I also have my own business that I'm starting. I just became an author for the second time and help my husband with his business. So there are a lot of things that's happening, a lot of balls that's juggled in the air, as well as participating in community organizations. So, with all of that being said, when I start to find myself getting an attitude, being resentful about doing a task, things getting on your nerves, people getting on my nerves, everything is just irritating. That's one sign for me that I said, wait, it's time to pause and take a break. That's one sign. The second sign is if I'm missing deadlines, if I'm missing tasks that I should have done, that I'm not organized, I'm not prioritizing, things are getting slipped through the cracks. That's another sign for me. The last sign that I hope no one has to go through is if I start to feel sick, I might catch a cold easier. I'm not getting up to work out. I'm not getting my rest. I'm not taking care of myself physically. And then I might feel drained. I might feel worn out. I don't have energy. that's another sign that I find. It's time to pause and step back, Maxine. You're not taking care of yourself. And so those are just some signs based on my experience that could relate to it's time to pause, take a step back, and take care of yourself.
Well said. And I know we'll get into this book called Wife W.I.F.E in a moment, but you started giving us a sneak preview a little bit into who you are. And I think it's a good time for us to slow down because as famous as you are all over the world, some people don't know you. They're meeting you for the very first time, by the way. Someone's in the kitchen right now cooking dinner saying, yeah, I hear playing in the background. Someone else might be in your AirPods. Thank you, all of you who listen to the podcast or watch online right now in the gym or wherever you are on the plane listening to us right now. We appreciate you. So you don't know who Dr. Maxine is. So we'll take a moment. You know the question, who are you? What's the backstory? Everybody loves the backstory that led you to doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, it what led me to do what I'm doing now. It started in my career pretty much as an HR professional because as an HR professional, what I do is I serve. So I still do that. I really enjoy that work. Along with that, I got called into ministry. So probably about 16, no, maybe 18 years ago, I got called into the ministry. And then 16 years ago, I got appointed to my first church in Delaware. And so since that time, I want to say 2013, if I'm calculating correctly, I've been pastoring churches as an itinerant elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And so, right now, this is my third church that I am pastoring, and I'm excited about it. It's John Wesley AME Church and Deliverance Center in Dover, Delaware. So we had that, my pastoring, my HR background, and then I was still coaching on the side as my business. So I enjoy coaching, especially with women, and I enjoy coaching them. So for a little bit with that, I decided to go back to school and say, what do I want to do now? So I decided to go back and get my doctorate degree. That has been
Congratulations.
since the last time. Thank you that we met. So I have my doctorate in business administration with a concentration in organizational leadership. All of that to say, what was fascinating about that is during my process is putting together everything that I do. So, meaning um, of talking about leadership, women in leadership, and what's the spirituality and the faith and how that propels your leadership, how your spirituality helps you to overcome barriers. And so that was a fascinating process for me that I utilized to share with others. And that kind of put the icing on the cake for the book of Wife Boss, in that it put together not only my experiences, but experiences from not only coaching other women, but also doing during this the dissertation process of getting that data on about taking care of yourselves, leading powerfully, and all of that. And as I mentioned to you before, Shay, this has been on the shelf for for a couple of years. So since my first book is, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna start writing again about leadership and women in leadership." And then it was on the shelf. But as I was completing my doctorate, I said, "Oh, well, Maxine, what are you going to do next?" And as you know, it's always great to have a coach. And I tapped into one of my former coaches and said, I just need a quick call, a quick weekend to get together. I just need that push. And that was the pushing and the birthing. And the wonderful part about it was I utilized my son to help edit it. And so he gave me his first feedback, my husband, and all of that. And the whole goal was to make it an easy read, but yet reflective, in that it's paradoxical in the sense of it could be both, but yet how do you truly manage through? And that's what I wanted to get to other women and other men too, as well, to share about this whole being leading powerfully without sacrificing yourself.
Well, I love it. Well, we're all on the edge of our seat right now as you were sharing your backstory. Congratulations being able to
Thank you.
be in a support group with your family and have them participate. That's really special, by the way. So good stuff. Now let's talk about the book Wife, or I guess the better question is, what's the acronym? W.I.F.E. Tell us the title of the book and then break down the acronyms for it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, she can only do so much in the time she has. Okay. So it's not unfair, but she can give you a snapshot enough. Don't worry, she'll tell you how to connect with the book, how to get the book, how to connect with her. We'll get to all that. But first, let's understand what the acronym stands for. Take it away.
Sure. So WIFE is an acronym for Women Inspired, focused, and empowered. That's what the acronym stands for. Now, I will share that the acronym was created because initially it was just wife. And there were other women that said, wait a minute, I'm not married. Am I going to miss out on some information? So the acronym was made. And so when we break down the acronym of WIFE, as I said, women inspired, focused, and empowered, and BOSS, which talks about leadership mainly. And that's where the whole subline is, to lead powerfully without losing yourself. So wife is easy. The W is easy for women. So it is a book for women. It is intended to be a book for women, but it does not mean solely for women. I would also encourage, I had some men that have purchased the book and they said it was really great information. And so I'm grateful for that. Secondly, the inspired is that we all should be inspired to be our best selves. And that's the hope, that this book will inspire you to be your best self, to be your best leader, your best mom, your best sister, your best niece. You insert here. And then empowered, because empowerment comes from within. So how can you empower yourself? And that means digging deeper, because there's questions that's involved that you can do your own, I won't say self-analysis, but just some awareness questions. And again, I do want to say this is not so much that you're doing a project, but it's asking thought-provoking questions about yourself. So some of the questions are, I'm going off the top of my head, when did you discover you were a leader? Like, what was something when you were a child that discovered you, that made you say, "Oh, I'm a leader"? That's when it showed up. And I talk about my experience of being a cheerleading captain when I was like 12, and I was a cheerleading captain. I didn't want to be the cheerleading captain, but I guess it was the way I was encouraging, inspiring, and saying to the other girls, come on, we got this. And so that's when it really started being discovery for me. And I talked a little bit about that. And so when I say about the focus, I skipped it, F for focus, that we ought to be focused not just on what we do, but focus on ourselves and taking care of ourselves.
I love it. As you were talking about focusing on yourself, taking care of yourself, and what it means to be a leader, there's someone out there that's thinking, Shay, this is a good segue to a segment we have called Today is My January 1st, because maybe her life's been perfect the whole life. I mean, I don't know. We'll find that out in a moment. But for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. You might even wait for this moment every evening where you can say those magical words. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to all of you that are watching right now. For all the other folks who are tuning in for the very first time, welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny the past is back there, the past really no longer equals the future. And so my question for Dr. Maxine on the other side is really two parts. Number one, just when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And number two, was there ever a time in your life where there was a setback? And if so, how were you able to bounce back from it?
Sure. So when I think about today is my January 1st, I think about new beginnings, and it is exciting. I will say, Shay, that new beginnings doesn't always come with, I'll say, rainbows and lollipops and puppy dogs. All things cute and beautiful. I will give a more recent experience to the last time we met to up until today. So my January 1st, actually, I'm just going to get a little bit more deeper and more personal. And my
Sure, go
husband and
ahead.
I share this story with a lot of people. My husband and I, as you know, we are from Philadelphia and we were looking to relocate. But I when I started my business, I was chasing the money and not chasing serving others. And when you chase, it's good to make money, but I was really focused on making that money. I mean, I was like doing everything. I was throwing money here and there, doing so much so that I found myself in a huge deficit. And I'll call it my 9 to 5 job, couldn't even help it. So I had to pull my way out of it. And I kept that secret from my husband. And what happened was we were going to get a look at a new house. And he said, well, my husband's retired, by the way. And he said, well, Maxine, I need all of your taxes. I need this. And I'm like, you can't have none of that. You can't have any of that. And he's like, what is going on? And I said, financially, I didn't invest right. I will say I didn't budget, and I just had to confess I messed up. And we got into the worst argument. Shay, our argument was really bad. And I said to him, well, if you don't like it, then you go get a house. You don't need me, you do it. And I said it with my chicken neck and all of this. And that brother, you that brother 2 weeks later was like, we get in a house, we're moving. We laugh at it now, but at that time it was bad because one, I had to come clean about doing things kind of behind his back without his support. And secondly, it did push him to do something that he always says, you know what? If we didn't have that argument, I wouldn't have really pushed myself to do that on my own. So with that being said, my January 1st started when I was finishing up school, and I said I think I want to start back up Wife Boss Academy. I would love to start coaching again and finish this book. And he said, I think it's time, go for it. He went from not necessarily being supportive to you spent all this money to yes, it's time and go for it. So when I tell you that has been celebratory in that think doors have been opening up, things have been happening. I don't chase the money per se. It's good to make money. I'm not saying that, but you understand. You're an entrepreneur. You understand those that chase the money. But when you just want to do the work, and that has been said to me before, just do the work. But I didn't listen. I didn't hear it. I didn't listen. And so now I do the work, and it's been so much more rewarding. The support that I have from my husband has been awesome. And so that has been my January 1st, how I went from my business slowly growing, and I was trying to push it to go from zero to, six figures. Some people say they did it, good for them, but for me, that was not my story. So now my focus is different.
Well,
And I focus
you're
on
so
serving.
vulnerable. Thank you. That is so vulnerable in sharing that. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you're in your house. Are you in the house now? No, I'm joking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're in the house, not out the house. No, I'm joking. That's not
I'm not
funny. I
out
know
the house.
people get.
It was almost there, but we're in our new house. We relocated to
Uh,
Delaware.
that is a blessing. So for women watching, I'll say a few guys as well, but for women watching now, what is one daily habit? I'll say that can help a woman stay clear of feeling overwhelmed or feeling like they're yeah. What's one habit they can do on a daily basis to get them closer to being whole and not being overwhelmed?
Yeah, I will say the biggest, you have to be intentional about making time for yourself. And that intention could be getting up earlier than your children, than your husband. That intentionality could be even when my sons were young, my bathroom time. I'm being vulnerable, but my bathroom time, you better not knock on that door. That's my time and that's my space. Leave me alone. Whatever that looks like for you, take care of your body. Go for a walk if you work out. If not, just go outside, get some sun. But you have to be intentional about that. And we are intentional sometimes, I find, about taking care of everything and everyone else, that we lose sight of ourselves, and then it becomes overwhelming. Women are becoming burnt out, and especially in leadership roles, because it's so much and then we're expected to do a lot more. And we do that without setting boundaries or without even negotiating. I believe you can negotiate, especially if you have a good employer. How can we make this a win-win for both of us? And I will admit that's a skill, but it's something that you can work towards. But you have to be intentional about taking care of yourself. So for myself, I get up earlier. Before I used to get up, maybe 6:30, set that alarm a half hour earlier before my husband gets up because that's my time. And we have a prayer room, and I'm sitting in the prayer room now, but we have our prayer room where we go in, and that's just your time. If that door is shut, that means it's off limits. And so if you have that sacred space, whatever that means to you and for you, create that for yourself.
I love it, by the way. Great story. What does it mean as a woman to win? Because you mentioned leadership. So, what does it mean or look like to win as a woman in life and in leadership. The two double L's there. What would they even look like? What would that feel like for you right now for where you are in your life cycle?
Well, I will say that to answer that question for everyone, it is subjective for for who she is and what that means for her. But for me, a win is for my life, a success is I'm secure and confident in who I am as a leader. When I see other people and how they expand and how they grow into their own leadership, one thing being an HR professional, how you can see someone grow and help them to progress and they can get promoted, expand their capacity, and that they do different roles so that they are growing and learning. The biggest thing for me for my HR career is to have someone fill my seat when it's time for me to go. And I am working on that now. Not saying I'm leaving tomorrow, but that's the whole goal. Even when I look at it from a perspective, even serving the church and leading the church, I look at it when you see people growing spiritually, they're able to witness and share the gospel themselves. When you look at it in church, and from even from a business perspective, I went to a church and to see how people are tithes and offerings have increased. And I don't preach from the pulpit about money. You just have faith and you teach and you pray about. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I will say, they say happy wife, happy life. I believe happy spouse, happy house. And so that means that goes both ways. If my husband is not in a good place, then we're not in a good place, and vice versa. So I make sure that my household is peaceful and everything is good. And that's what makes it all the better. So we have adult children, and I always share, you want the best for your adult children and you want to see them do well, but they're adults. And so the biggest thing for us is making sure our home is a home of peace and of calm. And yeah, that's a great place to be.
Yeah, I feel that. That's good. Happy house, happy spouse. I gotta start saying that. I gotta start saying that. Make sure my wife is aware. Let me start saying that when I'm walking around. I love it. As we come down the home stretch, I'm curious. First, what do you do for fun when you're not out studying, you're not out teaching, you're not out leading, you're not out being a dualpreneur, working a 9 to 5, being a 9 to 5 millionaire, and having your own business on the side? What does fun look like for you these days?
Yeah, well, my husband and I love to travel, so we travel quite a bit. We love to go to any all things water and sand. So the islands is one of my favorite spots, and so we do that about twice a year. The great thing about it is we have like a trip a couple of times a year for both of us, but I also have a girls' trip where I might do things with women, my cousins or something, and he has a guy's trip. It's no harm, no foul. Like, do you have fun and we'll come together. The other thing I like to do is just frankly just sit around and relax. Like sit in the yard and look at look at the trees and just natural noise, just to be still. People might think that's not exciting, but that works for me.
I love it. Before we tell folks how to connect with you and everything, for someone that's watching right now, say, man, I really enjoyed this program. I love her spirit. I love her heart to give and her heart to serve. But I'm struggling right now, Shay. I've been hit with the punch I haven't seen coming, some tough times. And I got to make sure that I am the W.I.F.E. Take a moment, and what would you say to that person that's watching right now?
Yeah. Well, sometimes life is hard. And when those punches come, you didn't get knocked out. It's a hit. But that doesn't mean that you're knocked out and knocked out of this fight. And so what I would encourage them to do is just refocus and recenter. One is pray, and tap into your faith, tap into your beliefs, and tap into what is promised for you, what God has promised for you. And the other thing is when you're dealing with hard times, and think about what would that look like for you? What is the future? What does that look like for you? What are your goals? What does that mean for you? Write them down. And when you write things down and you look at it, it kind of gives you something to move forward. One thing that I did, Shay, is that I worked with young ladies who are teenage moms. And what we did, working with the organization, we had them write a letter to their future selves. And that letter to their future selves, so they can look at it from time to time when it's hard, when their baby daddies are not cooperating or their baby daddies left. And so that they can look at those letters to say, okay, this is what I promised my child. This is what I promised. This is what I said to myself, so that it gives them motivation to keep going. Not only with the motivation to keep going and to be inspired to keep going, but also there is discipline in that certain things you're going to sacrifice, but that's okay. Because I too, as I share with these young ladies, I was a teenage mom. It was not easy, but I knew I wanted better, not only for myself, but I wanted better for my children. And that was my North Star. That was my goal. And that's what happened. So even something as small as that, that can keep you going and keep you moving forward.
Well said. Now, as it come down the home stretch, two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to take on these days? I'm not sure if you're taking on any clients. And number two, how can folks best connect with you? How can they get the book? Where should they go? What website? What should they do? They're all on the edge right now.
Sure, thank you. I am accepting clients, so I do executive coaching and life coaching. And if you are interested in that, you can send me an email at info@maxineLjohnson.com, and I can be reached on all social media at Maxine L Johnson at Maxine L Johnson, and also my website, Maxine L Johnson. All things Maxine L Johnson. And if you want my book, I just want to give you, you can
Yay!
purchase on Amazon, and you can look up Wife Boss, or you can search it by Maxine L Johnson. Don't forget the L, because there are other Maxine Johnsons out there. So you can find me by Maxine L Johnson, and here's the picture of the book so that you know which book it is. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to share all of that with you. And thank you, Shay. Great catching up and talking to you. And thank you again for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. And I suggest everybody go get the book. Thanks for all you're doing. With that being said, thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show, by the way. So we appreciate you have a lot of choices and you choose to be with us. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you're doing really, really well and you're going to that next level of success, or like I said earlier, you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. That being said, I'm out. Peace. Thanks a lot. Dr. Not just Maxine. Dr. Maxine L. Johnson. She's in the building. Peace. We out here. See you guys later. Bye-bye.